Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is April. Today we are going to be going over the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot correspondences for the major arcana cards. In a previous video, I went over the modern keywords versus Waite's original traditional keywords and phrases. And so today I want to go over the correspondences. What does that include? That is going to include the astrology, the elements, the numerology, and the archetypes for each of the 22 major arcana cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith system. This is just a fraction of the information that I have available in my Fool's Journey Forward Tarot Guide, which is available on my Etsy store if you're interested. Otherwise, you can find the information here on my YouTube channel and on my other social media accounts in various posts. So for today, before we get straight into that list of correspondences for each card, let me go ahead and read you this one-page introduction that kind of explains my choice of the associated correspondences for each card. Okay. The astrology correspondences are the primary 12 zodiac sign associations. If the card is not the primary card for the zodiac sign, then the ruling luminary or planet is listed instead. This evenly distributes the 12 zodiac signs, 2 ruling luminaries, and 8 ruling planets evenly between the 22 major arcana cards, each having one astrology association. This is the common method, but it is worth mentioning that some readers will assign both a ruling luminary or planet and a zodiac sign to each card, in which case the associations made here are the appropriate primary correspondence. In interest of keeping things simple and uniform, I have opted not to add any additional luminaries and planets or zodiac signs to the cards, as that is more suited to advanced tarot astrology, which is not covered in this book and guide. For the elements, the assigned elements are based on the zodiac sign, not the ruling planet. So whether a primary ruling planet or zodiac sign is listed for the card, there are secondary elements listed in parentheses after the primary element for a handful of the cards. Some ruling planets rule 2 zodiac signs, which is where the secondary element comes from. I will not go deeper into this as it's a more advanced tarot astrology topic. However, I have opted to go ahead and add the secondary elements here because of Pluto. So Pluto is the planet assigned to the Judgment card. Keeping things uniform, Pluto rules Scorpio, whose element is water, and therefore water is rightfully the primary elemental association for the Judgment card using the structure I listed above that I just mentioned. However, the more common elemental association for the Judgment card is actually fire. I can understand the desire to place fire as the element for Judgment, as many view fire as having a better symbolism for the nature of the Judgment card. While truly both water and fire could equally apply as symbolism for the Judgment card, based on how the card shows up in a reading and the views of the reader. Because of this, it's important to list the secondary element as fire. In doing so, it is then relevant to list all the secondary elements where they exist. So the secondary elements are a little bit more of an advanced intermediate, I would say, maybe to astrology for tarot. But because of that, if you go online and you look for association for Pluto, or not for Pluto, but for the Judgment card, most of them are going to say fire. But the methodology used to select the element is based on the planet, and so then it would really be water. It's one of those little controversial subjects that depending on what point in time you come into it searching for the information, you're either going to get fire or water. So because of that, I felt it was important to include all the information. So the secondaries are listed in parentheses. For numerology, the numerology correspondences in this book are all reduced to numbers 1 through 9, with the exception of the Fool card, which I assigned a primary and secondary number. I opted to list number 4 as the primary number as it fits into the numbers 1 through 9. I get this number by placing the Fool as card number 22 instead of 0, which is how the Fool is listed in some older, less popular tarot decks. And I have listed 0 as a secondary numerology correspondence in parentheses due to its popularity as such. But I wanted to bring to note that really it depends again on your view. It's one of those things that it depends on where your starting point is in with tarot, if you're going to view the numerology association as a 4 or a 0 for the Fool card. So please go with what feels right to you and it'll work out just fine. Okay, and the last thing to note is in order to stay true to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, which this book or guide is based on, I have opted not to include the 22 Hebrew letter associations to the 22 major arcana cards in this book. Waite stated in his book, The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, his words were, "I have also not adopted the prevailing attribution of the cards to the Hebrew alphabet, firstly, because it would serve no purpose in an elementary handbook. Secondly, because nearly every attribution is wrong. While he did not adopt or apply them specifically to his deck, it is very common practice to do so. So should you choose to include them in your practice, the information is easily found by doing an online search on the topic." So I'd like to point out real quick too, just some additional thoughts on that, is because my guide here is very specific and intentional to wanting to bring forward Waite's original vision and description of all the cards in a very modern, easy to understand way. I felt it was important not to list those only because he specifically didn't list them. I will state that in his book, again, he states that it is his personal opinion that the cards don't match up. Many people believe that they do. So again, that's going to be a personal perspective of yours, and you can easily search those online. And he also kind of hinted to that he might include them if it was an advanced book on tarot, because it's based on perspective, and a lot of advanced tarot is based on personal perspective of the cards as opposed to traditional standardized associations. So I thought that was interesting too, that he didn't completely discount them, but he basically is saying that he didn't feel that they were a perfect match, and so he left them out in his basic book. So I didn't include them here. So I will probably include them in future tarot books that I write, but I've left them out of this one for that reason. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and dive into each of the individual 22 cards and go through the correspondences. So we are starting with the Fool card, which astrology is Uranus, the element is air, the numerology is 4 or the number 0, and the archetypes are explorer, jester, novice, seeker, self, and wanderer. Okay. And I forgot to mention, because it wasn't on that previous page too, the archetypes, I basically have gone through and assigned the archetypes that I would apply to each of the cards and try to give a very good list. A couple of the cards only have 2 or 3, but many of them have multiple archetypes to choose from. Okay, the Magician. Astrology is Mercury. The element is air with a secondary elemental option of earth. Numerology is 1. The archetypes are creator, juggler, magus, shaman, witch, and wizard. Then we have the High Priestess. Correspondences are, the astrology is moon, the element is water, numerology is 2, and the archetypes are medium, mystic, oracle, psychic, and seer. Okay, next we have the Empress. The astrology is Venus, element is earth, numerology is the number 3, and the archetypes are caregiver, divine feminine, empath, and mother. For Emperor, we have astrology of Aries, element fire, numerology number 4, archetypes divine masculine, father, protector, ruler. For Hierophant, we have the astrology as Taurus, element earth, numerology 5, archetypes are counselor, mentor, prophet, spiritual leader, and teacher. The Lovers. Astrology is Gemini, element air, numerology 6, and the archetypes are co-creator, partner, and soulmate. For the Chariot, we have astrology of Cancer, element is water, numerology 7, and the archetypes are quester, traveler, and warrior. For Strength, we have astrology as Leo, element is fire, numerology is number 8, and the archetypes are healer, hero, heroine, and master. Okay, for the Hermit, we have astrology of Virgo, element earth, numerology number 9, and the archetypes are architect, philosopher, and wise person. The Wheel of Fortune, we have astrology as Jupiter, element fire with a secondary elemental association of water, numerology is 1, and the archetypes are entrepreneur and risk taker. For Justice, we have astrology of Libra, element air, numerology 2, and the archetypes of adjudicator and advocate. For the Hanged Man, we have astrology of Neptune, element water, numerology 3, and archetypes of critic, martyr, or observer. For Death, astrology is Scorpio, the element is water, and numerology is 4. The archetypes are pioneer, rebel, and renegade. For Temperance, astrology is Sagittarius, element is fire, numerology is 5, and the archetypes are alchemist, mediator, and sage. For the Devil, we have astrology of Capricorn, element earth, numerology 6, and the archetypes are bondsman or trickster. For the Tower, Astrology is Mars. Element is fire. A secondary element association is water. Numerology is 7, and the archetypes are demolisher and sufferer. For the star card, we have astrology of Aquarius, element air, numerology 8, and archetypes of dreamer and visionary. For the moon, we have astrology of Pisces, element water, numerology 9, and archetypes of gatekeeper, journeyer, and spiritual warrior. For the sun card, we have astrology of the sun. Element is fire, numerology is 1, and the archetypes are enthusiast and optimist. For judgment, we have astrology of Pluto. Element is water, a secondary elemental association which happens to be the more common one presently, which is fire. Numerology is number 2, and the archetypes are awakened and redeemed. Last but not least, we have the world card. Astrology is Saturn. Element is earth with a secondary elemental correspondence of air. Numerology is 3, archetypes of adept, circumventor, graduate, and navigator. All right, so there you have it. That is all of the 21 major arcana cards, keeping it short and simple there for today. Please feel free to put comments down below, and I will see you all next time.